Hi, I'm Brian Jackson, editor of IT World Canada, and with me today in studio is a special guest. Bashir Fancy is the CEO and chairman of CIPS, Canada's preeminent organization for IT professionals. Welcome.
Thank you, Brian.
You know, CIPS has been an organization for 60 years. That's almost as long as IT has even been an industry.
That's actually very true. Since when we were formed in 1958 by Professor Kelvin Gottlieb, he was known as the father of computing in Canada and got the OBE. It was actually started the mainframes as we know it. That's where it came out, and therefore an association was set up to actually set the standards, code of ethics, and certification for people.
Okay, and in 2017, what's the mission statement today?
We need to make sure that we are now relevant, that as people that come out of colleges, universities, and those in the existing workforce, that we actually help them to actually bridge the gaps there, because there are skills gaps. Technology is moving too fast, we're not keeping pace. So we need to make sure that we bridge that by providing many different kind of options, which we will talk about, so that we can get them up there and they can compete with the best in the world.
It's a tall order to keep up with all the change that's happening. And I wonder, over the decades, how has the CIPS membership changed? What sort of demographics do you see that are different today?
We are starting to see a lot of young members coming in, and primarily I think that is because there used to be a fee for students, college and university. We have removed that. When I took over, I found that to be a barrier, because you're a young student, are you going to spend money on pizza, or are you going to go become a member of CIPS? And so we had to help them, so we've removed that. So we're seeing a lot of young people entering. We're seeing a lot of the people who have moved to Canada also see us in an interesting light. And then the people who've been with CIPS for a long time, they actually become the mentors in some ways because of the years of service they had. But it's changing. The only demographic that has not changed well is women. We need to fix that problem.
Oh, it is International Women's Day today, actually. So you're not seeing more women interested in the IT profession, or is it that they're not getting involved in the organization? What is it?
Actually, I think it's both. Because perhaps the view that we have conveyed, not by design, but by default, and CIPS is a reflection of what is happening in the industry. So we're not unique, because our members come from the corporate world, our universities, and what we're seeing is that is absolutely correct. We haven't had. So now we've changed it. We've got women on our board, for example, at CIPS, number one. Number two, we are starting to encourage them to get involved with us, where they understand that their contribution is very valuable. They're not just programming. They are making some critical decisions on where we're going.
Okay. Well, aside from all of those priorities, what are your priorities as the leader of the organization? What's your vision for CIPS?
Okay, one of the key parts that I put it at number one is technology field has suffered very badly when it comes to ethics and integrity. And there are studies now coming out of Europe. I believe there's one here, but I won't point to anything that I've not seen. Is that ethics and integrity have suffered. An example, case in point, Volkswagen is just an example, not to pick on Volkswagen, but that's happening elsewhere too. Is that what happened there?
You're talking about the emission tests.
The emission tests. Somebody programmed that was aware that this was not the right thing, but they continued to do that. So why did they do that? Because they were bad people, because somebody told them to do it, because they were afraid to speak up. How come this never came out and only got caught afterwards? Well, there's enough reports that people were grumbling about this. So what we need to do is to lift those ethics and integrity right to number one, because there could be more of these problems, especially given IoT and how it's becoming prevalent in our lives every day. We need to make sure, we need to fix that. If there's a problem, it is actually corrected before, and it becomes inbred. As I use the word, bake it in, not paint it on.
Right.
So it becomes really part of the culture.
Great. So if there's IT professionals out there that are interested in learning more about ethics in their field, or perhaps other topics, what sort of what sort of services are you offering to them to learn more about that?
Very shortly, that's a very good question. Very shortly, we will have on our website the code of ethics. We had been working on to revamp that, and we got people right across Canada from different professions, legal and otherwise, to work with us. So we've done that, working with some of our partners so they can access that. But we also, as we do webinars, as we do special interest groups constantly, and blogs that you mentioned before this discussion that we're doing, we actually have people talk about examples, because there's nothing more powerful than sharing the stories, because that tells you what can happen if you don't do the right things. So we can do that, and we are also using this actually event to make sure that we can enlist some of the volunteers who have this strength and ability to come forward and help us, to work with us, to make sure that this message gets across, and the people right who are starting in this game are actually trained in a manner that it becomes part of their daily routine.
Okay, excellent. I recommend that all IT professionals should check that out and see what's available there, and all sorts of great education offered at CIPS through webinars and other resources. And Bashir, thank you again so much for joining us today for this interview.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Brian.
Again, I'm Brian Jackson for IT World Canada.